of this was taking place in 1930s and 40s Germany, while at the same time the United States is carrying out our own genocide. There are at least 4,075 documented racial terror lynchings of African Americans in 12 southern states alone between the years of 1877 and 1950. Now that's documented lynchings, often public events designed to traumatize black citizens throughout the country. They were largely tolerated by state and federal officials as opposed to being some sort of frontier justice carried out by a few extremists. Now, what was one of the many reasons for which a black person could be lynched? For wearing a military uniform after World War I. As a matter of record, no one was more vulnerable to lynching than black veterans. The book, Lynching in America, Confronting the Legacy of Racial Terror, released by the Equal Justice Initiative of Montgomery, Alabama, if you want more details. Now move ahead a few years and we meet another preacher. And this was a preacher whose gospel got him arrested a lot too. This was a preacher who spoke of a gospel that announced liberation for every life and all of life, just like Paul and Bonhoeffer. And that liberation from the reign of sin and death and every form and manifestation, whether social or individual, public or private, is made possible in the life, death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus as King. And by this, God would form for himself a new humanity, loyal to a new citizenship that makes them a holy nation unto itself, a colony of heaven in the midst of America. Now, in a sermon on Philippians chapter 3, verse 20, where Paul tells us that the church is to be a colony of heaven on earth as we cling tightly to Jesus Christ as King and Lord, Dr. Martin Luther King says this: to the Philippian Christians, Paul wrote, "We are a colony of heaven." They understood what he meant, for their city of Philippi was a Roman colony. When Rome wished to Romanize a province, she established a small colony of people who lived by Roman law and Roman customs, and who, though in another country, held fast to their Roman allegiance. This powerful, creative minority spread the gospel of Roman culture. Although the analogy is imperfect, the Roman settlers lived within a framework of injustice and exploitation, that is, colonialism. The apostle does point to the responsibility of Christians to imbue an unchristian world with the ideals of a higher and more nobler order. Living in the colony of time, we are ultimately responsible to the empire of eternity. As Christians, we must never surrender our supreme loyalty to any time-bound custom or earth-bound idea, for at the heart of our universe is a higher reality, God and his kingdom of love, to which we must be conformed. We need to recapture the gospel glow of the early Christians who were non-conformists in the truest sense of the word and refused to shape their witnesses according to the mundane patterns of the world. Willingly they sacrificed fame, fortune, and life itself in behalf of a cause they knew to be right. Quantitatively small, they were quantitatively giants. Their powerful gospel put an end to such barbaric evils as infanticide and bloody gladiatorial contests. Finally, they capture the Roman Empire for Jesus Christ. Now today, we like Dr. King, but probably because he's not alive preaching. It's how people have always felt about the prophets, even back in the Hebrew scriptures. When they're alive, they talk too much and they're too political. When they're dead, well, we get to pick and choose. Now, if Dr. King were alive talking this kind of talk, we'd probably call him a liberal Marxist socialist and hold up the accusations of the FBI in the late 60s when they called him the most dangerous man in America. See, Dr. King's gospel is good news for every life and all of life. It is a gospel that directly speaks to any beliefs and ethics that do not line up with God's kingdom.